It's the Temple of the Five Dawns. Not Dawns like, you know, like my godfather Dawn, but like Dawns. And it's in the Wandering Isle. So the cool thing about this is once you start doing your quest line, this ends up becoming the home for your Zen pilgrimage, which, like you told me earlier, some people were pissed off about. Sorry, it's pretty awesome. So when you go in, you've got, I'm sure you guys have all seen the video on Wowhead. The coolest thing to me was when you're going up to where the giant temple is on the left-hand side, there is, what is it called? Hang on, I gotta find, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. The Laughing Crane is what it's called. So it's basically, it's your inn, right? It's your little inn. It's a little Pandaren tavern. And what I thought was really cool is there was Pandaren music that was like piano, like old style Western piano music in the tavern. And I was just sitting there, and Derek comes in there. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just listening to the tavern music."
Just chilling.
Yeah, it was pretty. I thought the ambiance of that was really, really nice. You can see the temple guards walking around. There's a portal to Dalaran in there. There's a scouting table. I don't know what that is because it's not active. I'm pretty sure I should have probably done the research to find out what that is. I just didn't have time to do it. So then when you go up to this giant temple, which it's located in Midori Village, the first thing you pop into is the Hall of Seasons. It's got the artifact weapons on this little thing that kind of floats in the air. You have this big, beautiful cherry blossom that's like water's falling down. The cherry blossom little leaves are falling down. Fantastic ambiance. They did a really special job with it. I like that I seen people. One of our biggest complaints in the garrison was what? We don't see anybody anymore. Not only do you see people, you see your own people. Literally. I mean, Alpha's not that populated, so there wasn't like a gajillion people running around. Don't know how this is going to kind of play out on launch, because the garrisons, remember, the garrisons took a shit. People tried to zone into their garrison, it got stuck in the air, or fell to their death like I did. Funny. Yeah, it was a bad time. But just with this alone, they did a lot of good work. I also felt the pain of everything being different as far as the monk is concerned, right? I'm a heals monk. I don't DPS very often, so I popped into heal spec. Everything's kind of different than what I'm used to, but it's not terrible. I did windwalk because I had to do some quests and I ended up having to DPS, and it was a little difficult, and I'm just attributing that to me, like the new play style of the way the monk is, which I haven't really checked out because I don't want to do a lot of questing. But not too shabby. DPS, just from me not really knowing the changes and just picking stuff based off what I normally know. DPS was pretty decent on that aspect.
Well, another thing about that is most people are gonna be going into there for their first and maybe second or third character with full HFC gear.
Yeah, for sure.
So the questing is gonna be a lot easier.
It wasn't terrible. It was a nice little quest line that you get, and then you start your artifact as soon as you get into your class hall. You get to pick which artifact weapon you want to start on first, because you do get to pick all of them, and more to come on that, because I'm actually going to be dealing with all the artifacts after we go through the class hall. So in the class hall, when you're in, there's a little teleport that you can go to, and it takes you to the upper level of the giant temple, which is it's the Hall of the Twins, I think is what it's called, and I'm not really sure who the twins are. Maybe Lycan can find that out, but there's just a big giant circle, because the tree and the water, the giant statue with the waterfall, goes all the way up through the temple. So it's a pretty big class hall in that sense. Didn't see any vendors, but I did want to talk about some of the NPCs. You can find, they have Firepaw. He's actually training a bunch of junior recruits. Like, there's a lot of cool ambiance around this class hall on the outside. It kind of looks like Jade Forest, the starting area for Jade Forest, and where you have all these stairs that you go to with all these different little random buildings. But he's training some new recruits there. I didn't see the Monkey King, although he's in there. I didn't see him in there, but there's a lot of nods to a lot of NPCs that we see in Mists of Pandaria, which I thought was pretty cool. Overall, they did a really great job. I'm excited to see the other classes. I literally just went in there and checked out the monk one. I was super impressed. So one of the NPCs, who's a very, very famous NPC, hangs out in your order hall for the monk, and Lycan's going to give you a little bit of lore regarding that specific NPC.
Yeah, and what we were originally planning on, I was going to go through all the NPCs that were in the order halls, but a lot of these NPCs, you have to understand, are new. They're not, there's not a lot of them that are real steeped in Warcraft history, because, I mean, they've got to put a lot of NPCs in that little bit of a space we're going to have it. So one of the ones I did decide to go on this time would be, what is his name? Chen Stormstout. Sorry, I lost here. I was thinking of the twins here and just trying to get you information on that. But we learned about Chen Stormstout actually way back in Warcraft, I believe 3 is when we first get to meet his acquaintance. And some of the information we actually have on him comes from the comic books. So let's to start off with him. You got Chen. He was a brewmaster monk that was from Pandaria. He was one of the first and few Pandarian to actually leave the Wandering Isles. There were stories of thousands of them or some of them leaving thousands of years before him. But then they stopped when they were on the back of Shenzhen Zhu, the turtle. And he originally had stopped making trips to the mainland and prevented a lot of them from leaving. But Chen was different. He was the type to sit around and wondering what was going on out in the rest of Azeroth, instead of just this little safe haven they had built for themselves. Like I said, for most of you don't know, that don't know the name of them. Sorry, my dog was shaking her chain.
It's okay. My dog sneezed earlier, and my husband gave me the death look. I don't know what that means.
But Wandering Owl is built on the back of Shenzhen Zhu, which is the big turtle that we got to meet in Mist of Pandaria, where you had Chen. Now, Chen had originally he was going to challenge Strongbow, which was the other basic master of the martial arts that was on the Wandering Owl, to be the leader of the martial arts school, and they called him the Geo Masters. But on the day that Chen was actually supposed to challenge Bo, he decided to head off and explore Azeroth around him. He said he got bored of what was there, knows there's so much more out there, and wanted to see it. Now, there is information on Chen, like I said, through the World of Warcraft comics, and that's where we meet Rexar, and he gets to meet him for the first time, which is the half-orc, half-ogre beastmaster. And he actually asked Rexar to help him find ingredients for his thunder brew that he was making. He found the ingredients, but when he took a drink of it, I actually thought he was going to die from it. It was that strong. And, you think of Rexar, he is this huge, towering, personality. And, yeah, he thought he was going to die from it. It was so strong. But after he quote-unquote lived through it, he decided to ask Chen to join him on some of his adventures through Azeroth. Him and Rexar headed off. One of the places that we find him at is in Theramore, and they wanted to help investigate why the humans were trying to kill the orcs. This is where we meet Jaina, and she actually decided, and I know Bloke just loves Jaina.
I knew something smelled fishy in this storyline.
Funny. Well, we actually find out that after seeing what her father had done to the, what had been doing to the fledgling horde, that she decided she was going to help.
You're the only person in your room. I just want to point that out. You're the only one in there.
In the storyline, not me.
Just saying, that's kind of weird. Sorry.
Just saying. You need you never got that bought over for Breeze yet, have you? And Richard's coming soon. You got to kind of spruce it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we meet Jaina. Jaina decided to help out. Her and Rexar and Chen, alongside of Duratar and Thrall, they went out and fought back the Culturist Marines that we see them coming onto Duratar. After that, Chen hung out for a little bit in Duratar, and we actually find out that he teaches an orc by the name of Drone the ways of the Brewmaster, which is one of the earliest occurrences of Brewmaster in the game. And if you go to Ratchet, right outside of one of the houses stands an orc. And the name of the orc is Brewmaster Drone. And, without any information up until that point, we really never knew what the title really meant. Not until Mist of Pandaria. Now, he had been missing from World of Warcraft for some time. There was that quest you get from Drone, which if you're Horde and you've decided to level through the Barrens, I'm not sure if it's still there since the revamp. But it was called Chen's Empty Keg. Did you go through that quest, Bloke, whenever you were doing your Horde adventures?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never leveled a Horde.
Okay. I know I haven't leveled a horde in a long time, so if anybody in the chat room knows for a fact that it's still there, just let us know. But we used to find empty kegs of his brew all through the Barrens. Now, when Chen arrived at Pandaria, we found him and found out that the Temple of the Jade Serpent, which is being attacked by the Sarek, which are those. They're not the fish ones. They're those creatures from the sea that were attacking the turtle.
The Jinyu or whatever they're called?
Not the Jinyu. These were the Sarek. If you remember, yes, it was the other ones that we saw on Shensen Su, the turtle. When if you did a monk, where you had to go heal the turtle because the turtle was damaged from the ship, and we had to explode the ship out of there and use the healers from both Horde and Alliance to heal it. Those are the Sarek. We find them actually attacking the Jade Serpent. He and his niece Lily helped drive them back, defeated the leader, and stole all the jade. Now we would catch up with them again in the Valley of the Four Winds, and that's where most of the players do find him. Chen and Lily were visiting through their farms on the way through, and they met up with Mudmug. If you remember him, he's the one you had to go get all the different, like the dirty water to make the brew, and you find him at the beginning of Valley Four Winds, and he leads you all the way through up to Hatfield Market. So you meet up with Mudmug, and he starts to talk to him about the brewery. Oh, of course, Chen wanted to go visit the Stormstout Brewery, which is are his distant relations. Hadn't seen them in ages, and then this is because, I said the turtle had stopped making the trips to the mainland and stayed out to sea. After he found the brewery, defeated all the enemies inside, he returned to Mudmug, and for his help, he named his beer brother. And there's a whole drinking scene where you sit there and talk to him. And then from that point on, we see Chen leave. He goes out to the brewery again, and we don't talk to him. He goes in to kill all the elementals and hose in there inside, but we really don't get to see him questing-wise. You do see him when you go back into the Stormstout Brewery, but you don't see him questing-wise until the end of the quest line in Valley of the Four Winds. That's where we meet up with him again. We can actually continue questing through. And when we get to the very end, I can't remember the name of the little village out there, but we meet up with the Shadow Pan, and the Shadow Pan are trying to fight back the Mantid. Now, these guys are trying to force their way through the Serpent Spine wall that they had blown a hole through. When it was all about lost, you hear, here comes Chen to save the day. Him and Mudmug and Lily actually rallied, along with you, go around and rallying all the different farmers and try to get them to come back and try to fight off the Mantid. We also see that the Night Elf Sentinels and the Taran Sunwalkers joined the group as well. And for those who know anything about the animosities between the Horde and Alliance, this is the very first time that the Horde and Alliance have worked together since back at Wrath of the Arrogate, or Wrathgate in Wrath of the Lich King, when they were in front, and that's where we see Bolvar actually get a little crispy. So, spoiler alert if you haven't played that part yet, but that's how long it's been since we've actually worked together as a group instead of against each other. So it's kind of a neat little callback. Chen's very steeped in the lore. Some say that all the brewing information that the dwarves know were actually taught originally by the Pandaren. Some say that the Pandaren have been around a lot longer than the dwarves. There's a lot of discussion on how deep the Pandaren actually go. And if you look at the monk, and this is where what actually frustrated me when Mr. Pandaria came out, is that people are saying there's no reason for them. They're not supposed to be in the game. But they've actually predated World of Warcraft by 6-7 years. Other places you find Chen actually right now in game, you can find him at the Lazy Turnip. That's at bar that's right there in the Valley of the Four Winds. Ella makes a brew that you actually have to take up there and have him try. You also see Chen and Lily on the Wandering Festival, which is on Turtle Beach in Crassaring Wilds. If you've never seen that, that's something pretty neat to see. I believe it only happens on Sunday nights. Also during the Landfall patch, we see Chen stationed in Binon Village. This is where you'll see him taking care of Vol'jin after Garrosh betrayed him. So, other than that, he's really stopped being a major part of the game. We see him throughout the rest of Pandaria, of course, bits and pieces and references here and there. But more prominent out of the Pandaren became Lore Master Cho as Mr. Pandaria moved forward. Chen is one of those ultimate wild characters like what Rexar. You know, you put him up there with the likes of Rexar, which are just fabled in stories, but yet very, very rarely seen. So moving forward, I really don't see much more coming from the whole Chen storyline. I wish there would be more on his family and maybe some of his adventures. Again, I always like the way they do the Caverns of Times dungeons. Really think maybe they could do a Caverns of Times dungeons on the Chen adventures. But with the Chen, I think Chen's a storied character, and I really think that they could have done more with him. And I understand that the content drove them to do more with Cho than anything else, but I think it was a disservice to him that they didn't do more informational.